Hey guys, welcome back. So we're continuing with more on the Carnage series, where now God Carnage is going up against one of his only weaknesses, which is anti-venom, but it seems like that's not going to be the case for long. So let's get into it. But first, if you're enjoying these videos, make sure to drop a like, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and don't forget to hit that bell up top to get all notifications so we can squad up in the comments for the first hour. Alright, so coming back, we pick up with Flash Thompson just moments after he had inadvertently killed John Statler Baker, where in this case it's like, let's be honest, if it wasn't him walking into the room and setting off the explosive, then it would only be a matter of time before the authorities or anybody else would have walked in and set it off themselves. But because it was Flash, who prior to this was already questioning himself about whether he was someone looking for trouble, he now goes through the stages of fear and guilt and eventually rage. So he goes outside and right away he sees Cletus Cassidy, who at first Cletus tells him, hey, if it makes you feel better, that guy did some nasty things. Which for Flash, that's not his main concern right now. And even furthermore, it's not even so much the case of Cletus Cassidy leaving bodies in his wake, because that's not new. But instead, Flash is more concerned about what Cletus is up to, because he knows this time around something feels different. And for a moment here, Cletus tells him, don't ask a clown why he's acting like a clown. Ask yourself why you're at the circus. And he warns Flash not to try anything here, because if he does, then Cletus will just take it out on the other residents in this area. And to make things even worse, Cletus points out the sounds of sirens approaching, because yep, he called the police and they're almost there. So as you could imagine, with Flash walking out of this place covered in blood, that's not a good look. And for a moment here, Flash lets his temper get the best of him, so he slams Cletus against the plumber van. But it's right here where Cletus drops another gem, because as Flash is yelling at him and asking if this is some type of game to him, Cletus tells him, well, everything is. But then he goes on to ask Flash, what is this to you? Because Cletus is like, tell me something. If you want to be a hero, why are you not at the hospital somewhere, healing kiddos from cancer or whatever? And you know, I'm not gonna front, that one made me sit up in my seat a little bit, because I was like, well, you know, he could be. But right here, Flash is speechless. He has no response to that. And mind you, the Cletus that we're dealing with here, this is the old Cletus, the new Cletus, and the Carnage symbiote, all wrapped up into one because of the events that took place back in issue 3. And as it stands, we don't know if that's gonna bite the Carnage symbiote in the bum at some point, but that's just where we're at right now with it. But after asking Flash this question, Cletus goes on to say, isn't that your true superpower? Healing people? So why don't you? Scared of pissing off Big Pharma? Or do you not like being around sickly sickos? Which for Flash, fear does play a part in that. And we'll get into one of the huge reasons why in a little bit. But before we do, Cletus just keeps going in. Because next he tells Flash, my point is that we are alike. We're both murderers, for one. And there's another thing. Tell me, are you alive? Which at first has Flash like, what do you mean? So Cletus asks him again, are you alive? Which right there is a reference to both the death and resurrection of Flash Thompson. And I have the link to those videos down in the description, just below the like button. But most notably, Cletus leans into the idea of how Flash came back and the fact that he's merely a construct, much like Cletus himself. Because if you guys remember, heading into the conclusion of King in Black, when Eddie traveled through Null's Hive, it was around this time when Eddie ran into the deceased Flash Thompson, who eventually made his return to the land of the living as an anti-venom symbiote dragon, which at the time I remember, this had me thinking, oh man, Flash is back and he's about to have a crazy upgrade. But nope, not too long after that, it was back to more of the same. And that's the point that Cletus digs into here, while also trying to hit every nerve that he possibly can on the way down. Cause next Cletus says, so what are you? A construction made by your symbiote friend? And if so, one might wonder, if the symbiote could make you into whatever it wanted, why would it make you so pathetic? Why wouldn't it remove those memories that torture you? The memories of all the things you've done and all the things you didn't do? Why wouldn't it take away your bloodlust, make you charitable and good instead of lazy and unlovable? Give you back your legs for good? Why would it choose to recreate you with all your obvious flaws? Why wouldn't it make you whole again? So with hearing this, Flash does what any sensible person would do. He put the paws on him. But just after hitting Cassidy, Flash notices that he's wearing a visitor's badge for Rose Manor Wellness Center, which lets Flash know right away that Cletus has recently paid his mother a visit. So with seeing this, Flash immediately takes off to go check on his mother in fear for her life. And as soon as he gets there, he can sense that she's been given an insane amount of radiation poisoning. so right away Flash uses his symbiote to purge it from her body. And while this is happening, we're given the audio overlay from another live stream that's coming from Travis Brookfield, who's doing a follow-up report on the Carnage murders, where in the beginning he starts talking about the hitchhiker who we saw Carnage take out in issue 2, only to then quickly take a moment to thank his viewers for getting his field report to 200,000 subscribers, which right there has got to be one of the craziest segues I've ever seen. Cause could you imagine the victim's family finding out by way of watching this guy's video? Like, I couldn't imagine that going well. But after informing the people about the hitchhiker named Mark, who was recently killed by Carnage, he then goes on to report that there's been a breakthrough in connection to what seemed to be random letters found in the glass tomb that were decrypted using the Caesar cipher. And as it turns out, these random letters translate to a message that says, "Where are you, Eddie?" So of course Travis Brookfield is like, who the heck is Eddie? And is he the next victim? But this is one of those things that just comes down to us knowing that later on, Carnage is going to make his way to Meridius' garden, where eventually he'll find Eddie there for round 1. But this encounter hasn't happened yet for Carnage, because as it stands in the Carnage series, he's still trying to figure out where Eddie is. But just after getting this field report from Travis Brookfield, we go back to Flash, who's using the anti-venom symbiote to heal his mother and remove the radiation from her body. But while he's doing this, Flash knows in the back of his mind that Carnage did this to set him up, because after absorbing this amount of radiation, Flash is going to be weakened for some time. But of course he doesn't have a choice because it is his mother. But I also gotta say, I feel like Cletus did this because of Flash's history with his parents. Because as a lot of you may already know, Flash's dad was a police officer who drank a lot and often took out his frustrations on Flash, which was your main reason why Flash was a bully back in school. But in addition to his father beating the mess out of him, his mother would often blame him for the abuse that he was receiving, which, as you can imagine, that was only adding insult to injury, and it affected the entire family for years to come. And this even got to the point where at one time, your much older Flash Thompson went back to his parents' house and beat the brakes off his old man. But it was a really emotional story, because this was one of the first times when we saw how Flash was becoming more and more like his father. And it wasn't until way later in Venom Space Knight issue 11 where we saw Flash and his mother set aside their differences. So yeah, since then things have been better between Flash and his mom, but again, I can't help but to think that there was more behind Cletus paying this visit to Flash's mom than what it seems to be on the surface, especially with Cletus giving Flash the whole pathetic speech about him still having all his flaws. But just after absorbing the radiation from his mother, Flash hears a woman scream just outside the wellness center, only to head out there just in time to save one of the doctors who Carnage just dropped off the top of the building. And already Flash can feel that he's a lot weaker now after absorbing all the radiation from his mother, so he asks Cletus what did he give her. So Cletus tells Flash that he gave his mother polonium-210, of which 1 gram could kill 50 million people. But again, not only was this done as a way for Carnage to weaken Flash before the two of them fought, but this was also done because Carnage knew that anti-venom is one of the last few things that can still harm him. So he wanted to make sure and nerf Flash before they got into it, so that Carnage could use the gradual exposure to anti-venom as a way to evolve and become stronger. And Carnage even tells Flash, he lets him know, every time he attacks, it builds up his tolerance for anti-venom. And there's a moment here where this guy, he's either a cop or a security guard, he tries to step in and shoot Carnage, only for Carnage to tear him into numerous pieces. So Flash attacks Carnage again, which, like we saw before, it's only building up Carnage's tolerance against anti-venom. But this time, while Flash is attacking Carnage, this merges their minds for a moment. So Carnage takes this opportunity to search Flash's mind for the answer to the question of where is Eddie? But instead of getting the answer to where Eddie is, Carnage sees Dylan. Which right there just points us back to Venom issue 28, where we saw Dylan make his way over to Flash so he could help out Bren. And at the time we saw Flash had all the Carnage clues posted up around the apartment. And it was here where he ended up letting Dylan know that Carnage is back. And with seeing these memories, Carnage is just like, Eddie let Venom bond with his son? That was stupid. But also with Flash realizing that his attacks are killing Carnage, he then takes this opportunity to finish the job. But instead of this being just the easy kill that Flash thought it would be, things take quite the turn when Carnage uses the powers that he had stolen from the deceased Jonathan Owen, RIP Spot, which by the way, Flash had no idea that Carnage had this in his bag, so he was completely caught off guard with this. But Carnage uses this power to trap Flash in the Dark Force dimension, because for the time being, Carnage has had as much of Flash as he can take. So going forward, he's just gonna leave Flash here and go after Dylan. And really quickly, I also wanted to mention here, back when we covered Venom issue 30, where Future Carnage told Eddie that he killed Dylan, I noticed a few of you in the comments were saying that this was a reference to Death of the Venomverse, which is a very valid statement because at that time Carnage did kill a Dylan. But with how this is set up, what Future Carnage said about killing Eddie's Dylan, by design that was set up to lead us into Venom issue 31, which will then take us into Carnage issue 5, for a bit of a doubleheader event called Symbiosis Necrosis. So yeah, what Future Carnage said about Dylan, that was made to set us up for what's to come for present day 616 Dylan, where I imagine in Dylan's case, his fight with Carnage is just gonna make him stronger, much like the previous fight he had with Bedlam. And so now real quick, I want to give a special shout out to all the patrons. Thank you guys for all of your support. And for anyone who's new here, who wants more information on how to support the channel, I got a link below where you can go to patreon.com/Dopespill. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and we'll do it again on the next one. Alright, later.